Good morning, everyone. Buenos dias, bon dia, and welcome to this very special edition of Endeavor Talks webinar focused on venture capital in Latin America. My name is Alan Taylor. I'm the managing director of Endeavor Catalyst, and I lead Endeavor's office in Valley. I'm a gringo, 100%, but I have spent the last 15 years living and working in Latin America and through Endeavor, supporting some of the highest growth, most exciting companies in the region. It's my honor to be here today to be your moderator and to be joined by three of the most fantastic venture capital funds active in Latin America, with Marcelo Lima representing Monashis, Nico Berman from Kazakh, and Hector Sepulveda from Mountain Nazca. We've got some great topics we're going to cover together, but before we do that, I want to give our panelists a chance to at least say hello and introduce themselves. So Marcelo, I'll start with you. Can you tell us just a little bit about who Monashis is and what you guys are all about, but also how did you come to be a part of this this world of venture capital? Well, we're going to have to unmute you, I think.
Perfect.
That's part of every webinar. I think the phrase of 2020 is "you're on mute." So go ahead.
So hi, Alan. It's a pleasure to be here. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Endeavor, for the invitation. It's great to be here, share a little bit about what we are learning. So regarding Monashis, we are a Latin America venture capital fund. We are based in São Paulo, but we invest all over the region. So Brazil, Colombia, Mexico, Argentina. So we learn if we want to invest in the best teams of the region, we definitely have to work with teams all over the region. So we are focused on seed and Series A. We are open to also invest on Series Bs. Focus on pretty much anything related to technology. Right now we have a portfolio of 77 active companies. So about me, I joined Monashis almost kind of 11 years ago, so very early. Monashis started in 2005, so everybody thought that Eric and Fabio were a bit crazy because there was almost nothing to do. I had a little bit of this taste when I joined, so in the first year there was almost nothing to do, really. It was very hard to find good teams back in those times. My major is computer engineer, so after college I work at management consulting. Was kind of my business school after college, but I always love kind of coding. I always love technology, entrepreneurship. So through friends in common, I got to learn more about Eric and Fabio, and kind of fell in love for what they're doing. Their phrase is, "This is very new for now, but 15 years from now, 10 years from now, this will make total sense." So it was like science fiction somehow. I'm a big fan of science fiction. So I kind of fell in love for the vision and decided to join the company initially as an associate, and then I become a partner. So I think my evolution at Monashis went together with the evolution of the landscape in the region and also with the firm itself.
Fantastic. Well, a lot has changed in 11 years, that's for sure. So we'll come back and talk about that. Nico, how about yourself? Tell us just a little bit about Kazakh and then your own path to joining and becoming part of the world of venture capital.
Yeah, sure. So also happy to be here. Thanks for the invitation. And a brief summary about Kazakh. We are a firm of mainly entrepreneurs that we wanted to bring our expertise and our experience to companies. You know, we basically come from building Mercado Libre. My partner Hernan, he was the co-founder of Mercado Libre. Nico Sekasi was the CFO. I was leading all growth there. And what happened is that since '99 that we've been in the ecosystem, we've been learning a lot of things. We had to learn in those days, we had to learn everything by experimenting, because you couldn't hire someone that would come with expertise on how to do product or how to do SEO or things related to tech businesses. So we had to experiment, and experimentation is amazing because you make millions of mistakes. And Kasek is basically about making sure that entrepreneurs don't make those mistakes that we did, and also that we make sure that companies get in the right path with all the experience that we can bring to them. So what we do is we bring capital, but also experience to companies. Today we invest all across Latam. Actually, since day one, we've been investing in the region. We do seed. We do also PowerPoint sometimes. Nubank has been an amazing PowerPoint investment. So we do PowerPoint, seed, Series A, Series B, and now with the Opportunity Fund, we can do also Cs and Ds and Es, whatever. So what we do is basically backing up teams so that they can build iconic companies, and we can maximize chance of success of the teams. How I joined was basically, that story I was telling. We were part of Mercado Libre. We realized that we could bring not just money, but also experience that we had. We understood that we could bring more value to the world by leaving Mercado Libre at that time and helping other companies to make the next Melis. And that's how Kasek was built.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing, and obviously thanks for being here. Let's move over to our fourth square. At least I see us all in these little panels that we live in. So, Hector, tell us about your own path and Mountain Nazca.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you for inviting us, and hello to all the audience. Thank you for taking the time to listen to us. It's thrilling to be here. So a little bit about me and Nazca. I'd say Nazca is basically a product of my own experience and frustration by being a founder. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 21. I'm an engineer. Always been frustrated by everything you need to get a business going, thinking big, all that kind of stuff. In my own experience and listening to most of my peers at that time, people had lots of difficulty accessing capital, and there was a very unbalanced status quo on the side of money. It was a privilege actually to be able to access the resources to start your own business if you wanted to think big. So basically what my experience was, if you were a Latin American entrepreneur, you'd have to have access, you'd have to be privileged in order to get the opportunity. It was very few meritocracy around it. So when I sold my company, I had a private equity firm. Difficult having a top to bottom minded investor when you're bottom up minded, trying to create something, somebody else trying to optimizing it. And I was actually an Endeavor entrepreneur back then, and thanks to you guys, actually, I met lots of the VCs in other places, in the US, and they basically showed me how they did things, and that was like my wow moment, my eureka moment. And I said, hey, I need to do this. I had absolutely no idea what managing a fund was like. I literally Googled what an LP is, what a GP is, back then, in order to get on track. But our goal has always been the same. We want to provide revolutionary empowerment to talent, and I think Latin Americans are extremely talented. And having said that, we're a very young firm. We started out in 2014, 2015. We're just into our second fund. We're early stage entries, also PowerPoints, seed, Series A entries, and looking basically to back the best teams in the region. We don't participate in Brazil. We're just Spanish speaking Latam, that's basically a little bit about us.
Fantastic. Well, thank you guys all for being here. it's a great moment to be having this conversation in 2020, right? Which has been a heck of a year in a lot of ways. I think everybody out there, all the entrepreneurs who are listening to us, I don't have to tell you, this has been kind of a crazy year. But when it comes to the evolution of the venture capital ecosystem in Latin America, I think it's an interesting moment to reflect and really realize how far we have come, right? Because I can remember, having conversations with Eric and the guys for Monashis back in 2008, right? And it did feel like we were almost living before the beginning of history or something. Or with Hernan and Nico, when Kazek was started back in 2011, right? Or Hector, when you were getting started a few years later. So it's really interesting to see what we've come to today. And so I wanted to spend our first, 5 or 10 minutes drilling down a little bit on how you guys see the market today in terms of availability of capital, of sort of quality capital for entrepreneurs. And what I mean, and maybe you can comment a little bit on stage, is I think we are starting to get to a more mature ecosystem where you actually have stages of financing, right? You have angel and seed investors, and you have Series A investors, and some Series B investors. But I think that's evolving, right? And there's probably more opportunity or more capital available to entrepreneurs today than 5 or 10 years ago, but it's still an ecosystem that's growing, right? It's not fully mature like, say, Shanghai or Silicon Valley. So maybe, Nico, I'll come to you first. What's your view on kind of the availability of quality capital for entrepreneurs in Latin America in 2020?
Yeah, sure. But let me go back. I know you mentioned let's tackle this in 5 minutes, but let me go back in time, and I'll take 30 seconds on this. When we started Kasek back in 2011, the questions that we were getting from LPs, it was basically, is there gonna be availability of follow-on capital, right? So you're gonna invest in a seed, in a Series A. What's gonna happen with the Series B? And also through our experience in Mercado Libre, we learned that whenever, and we believed that at that time, and we keep believing that today, whenever there's, you're building a strong, solid, growing company, you will always be able to find capital. There's a lot of capital out there, and especially nowadays with the interest rates where they are, there is a lot of capital floating and looking for opportunities. So, we proved that to be the case, that whenever you build something big, you're gonna find the capital. And if we look at our companies, Monashis, Hector's companies, I'm sure the portfolios have raised billions and billions of dollars, at least $4, $5, $6 billion in the last year. So whenever there's a great company, there's gonna be availability of capital, and especially nowadays with how interest rates are, it's clear that everybody wants to find great investments.
Great, thanks for that, Hector. I'll come to you for Mexico, where you sit, or actually and then your view on the whole region. How do you think about this for entrepreneurs and the availability of capital?
I agree with what Nico said. It's been, you can finance the early stages, but what happens to the late ones? Recently in Mexico specifically, we've seen late stage players entry. I think it's a problem that's, I think, much more mitigated than it was before. We've seen huge rounds in Mexico. They haven't been so public, I think, for many reasons, but people are getting access to capital. They're getting access to speak with lots of investors. We've seen investors from the US, of course, from China, from Europe. local ones. I've seen private equity firms, very traditional private equity firms, local ones pivoting and turning themselves into more like kind of like growth players, and with that mentality. So I've seen the big families, the big corporates in Mexico. They're also building their investment firms, their investment strategies. I think they're doing a good job. So I think there is access to capital, and it's exciting in Mexico.
Marcelo, anything you want to add on this topic? Oh, we keep muting Marcelo. Let's unmute him.
Perfect. So sorry about that. So I'm very aligned with Nico and Hector about this. Actually, I think the three major questions about Latin America were always about growth capital, talent, and exits. We can tackle the last two later. But in terms of capital, I think, as Nico mentioned, the best companies, they don't have problems to raise money. I think that the challenge in Latin America is growth capital for good companies. They're like probably in the US or China, they would have no problems to fundraise, but in Latin America, it's harder. So I think this is the biggest pain point here. Like companies that are doing very well, growing a lot, but they're just not there in terms of being kind of the feel like 10, 20 that will be able to attract investors from abroad just because the bar is higher. And I think this is changing. If we look to the numbers, last year alone, I think $4 billion were invested in venture capital and technology in Latin America alone. And this represent a huge growth. If we look like 7 years alone, this number was like $15 million. So it's a huge increase, and it's going to increase even more. So when we look to our portfolio, our companies combined have raised around like $4.5 billion in the last 4 or 5 years. So I think capital is here. And I think other funds are starting to pay more attention to the region, being it kind of US investors and Asia investors. And as the ecosystem gets more kind of to a maturity level, as you mentioned, we'll start to see kind of more capital, more talent. And this will help, especially the companies that are like in the kind of very good segment, because as I mentioned, this is the segment that would be great to see more capital.
Absolutely. I think that makes a lot of sense. So let me ask a follow-up question on this topic. And it relates to the question I always ask Endeavor entrepreneurs when we're talking about fundraising, is I say, hey, besides the capital, right? If the cash is sort of the commodity, what are you looking for in a partner, right? And I think this gets to this topic that's kind of a buzzword, but everybody talks about smart capital, right? Oh, make sure you get smart capital, right? But smart capital means different things to different companies at different stages. So how do you guys think about that part when you're going to, Marcelo, let's say when you're going to partner with a company at Monashis, what are those things besides the capital that you think about in the partnership?
I think it's a good question. So putting myself in kind of in the entrepreneur kind of shoes, I think what they really should look for, it's kind of, first of all, like really try to find a real partner. Being entrepreneur is very hard. The journey it's full of ups and downs. There will be a lot of good moments, but several bad moments as well. So it's very important to find someone who will be there for you in these bad moments, also in the good moments, to deliver its promising and be there for you, that will prioritize you. And it's important for the entrepreneurs to spend time, look for reference, do their due diligence, and look for a style, because I think investors also have different styles. So you have to look for a style that will fit your preference. So it's a very long-term marriage. So small misalignments now can represent huge conflicts in the future. So I think this is the first element. Look for someone that you can trust, that you can rely, and this is very, very important. Entrepreneurs overall in Latin America, they tend to look at investors as bosses, and this is very wrong. Investors are your partners. They are here to serve you, to help you, different ways to challenge you, but to serve at the end of the day. And I think the good entrepreneurs in the region, they're learning how to use investors, how to get inputs, how to get this, what we call like smart capital, look I to Y. This is changing a lot, and it's very, very important. I think the other, so aside this, and this is very important because some entrepreneurs, they tend to do not pay attention a lot to this point. And aside this, then we talk about like experience and network that will help you based like on challenge, on asking the right questions, on connect you to kind of follow on investors, and especially to use the experience that they had either as entrepreneurs or investing and building a portfolio to help you navigate the challenge, and also to help you to get answers and local network to overcome this challenge. So I think these are like the two elements that the entrepreneurs should look for. I think overall everybody knows about the second bucket, but I think the first one, it's very, very important. And a lot of entrepreneurs, they get frustrated about relationship with investors just because they don't pay the right attention for the first one.
I think that's a great point. I'll come next to Hector, to you, but particularly thinking of Marcelo's comment, with your portfolio companies who really do know how to work with you well and build that trust, what do you see in them? What are the things they do right to really set that relationship up with you at Mountain Nazca?
Well, I agree with what Marcelo said, and going back a little bit, specifically to your question, and I'm going to use an analogy here. It's very similar to kind of like an insurance company. It's there, it works great, everything is working amazing. There's lots of value, lots of things like the ones Marcelo mentioned that mostly every I think VC can provide anywhere in the world. But they're very specific moments when you really, really, really need them, and they really, really make the difference. And there may be 1, 2, 3 times during the entire lifespan of a company where you actually arrive at that moment, critical moment, where you need the right partner. It could be a bad situation, it could be a good situation, whatever it is. Those critical moments, that's where you need the right partner. Those critical moments are where the bad partners, deteriorate the value of the companies and the relationships. The right partners, make a good company great. And to do an example, for example, with one of our companies, we had lots of interested investors, a big round. People needed to concede on many things like selling their shares, secondaries, things like this. You needed somebody that would, look first for the overall health of the company and the founders rather than their personal greed, if you will. And at that moment, when that moment arrived, I think we delivered, and I think that's a very specific distinction. Those key moments, all about those very specific moments where you actually need support, where you need the right partner that make the big difference.
Nico, how do you guys think about this at Kazek when you're approaching a partnership with, let's say, a new founder or a team you haven't worked with before? Sorry, we're muting everybody when they're not talking.
This was my fault. This was my fault. I was muted. We've been on the other side, so we know the importance of having the right partners. We had amazing investors in Mercado Libre, but they had different DNA. We had Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, GE, different DNA, and we understood the importance of having people that will be as entrepreneurial as you, as an entrepreneur, right? Because this is a long ride. There are good moments, bad moments, and resilience that entrepreneurs have is what you also want to see in an investor. You want someone that will be working alongside with you. And I agree with Hector that there are critical moments that are extremely important. But also, it's about the day-by-day thing. No, it's about building a company. Yes, there are critical moments, pivotal moments, but then it's the things that you do every day that will bring that company to be a solid and iconic one. And you also, I think, you also want partners that will be on those day-by-day things, helping you, to move the boxes if needed, to help you on the strategic things, on recruiting, on every piece of the things that you are doing, and basically have someone that on the other side, it's your first call. No, it's like you have a thought. Okay, with whom can I bounce it? You have a crazy idea. You have an issue. You have you're desperate with something positive, negative, and it's also not just on the things to do or not to do, but it's also being next to the founder at an emotional level, because this is very hard. Building a company is extremely hard, and there are moments that you just want to cry. So I think that in the end, a great partner to you is that will be on positive moments, negative moments, helping you with guidance, with questions, but also on the emotional side.
Awesome. I couldn't agree more. And I'll tell you the truth, 15 years at Endeavor, it's not that sometimes you want to cry. Sometimes you do cry. I've been there with, founders, amazing founders, leading companies that ultimately are hugely successful, right? But you have these near-death experiences where you literally are just looking at your partners in the room like, oh yeah, how are we going to do this? And I think some of the companies had this in March of this year, right? It was this very crazy moment for probably 30, 60 days where what the heck was going to happen. Now, interestingly, what we've seen at Endeavor, and I'd be curious what you guys have seen, a lot of the businesses where there was a lot of uncertainty have actually emerged doing quite well, right? Because some of the trends that we've all been investing into around the acceleration of not only digital technology, but user behavior, right? People starting to do things more digitally, have actually enhanced the growth of some of these companies. But that's where I wanted to go next, specifically thinking about, where we sit right now. What do you guys see in the next, 3, 6, 9 months in the region? We have more than 200 entrepreneurs connected and listening right now. I'm sure a lot of them are thinking about, raising capital for their businesses. What should their plan be, right? Is the market open for venture capital, given all the things that are happening? Nico, what would you say?
I don't know the rest here, but we've been open for business since COVID started, and we've never closed doors. We are long-term investors, and we see COVID. Yeah, it's definitely something that it's not taking a month. It's gonna take a year or 2 years, but we are here for the next 10 years, and we don't change plans because of COVID or any other thing. We know that in the type of companies where we are investing, the outcome that we expect, it's still gonna be there. And actually, in most of cases, we're seeing that it's accelerating. This came as a tsunami, but most of these companies, they have surfboards and they're surfing the wave. With everything bad that COVID is bringing, yeah, I would have preferred this not to happen. But most of the companies, they're just benefiting of this great transition to digital, to new technologies that COVID is pushing.
We'll come back to that, because I think that's an interesting theme of where you guys see the biggest opportunities for kind of rapid change or acceleration. But first, Hector or Marcelo, do you guys want to comment on just if I'm an entrepreneur out there listening, how I should be thinking about the market for venture capital in 2020 and 2021? Hector, go ahead.
Okay. No, I think Marcelo, go ahead. You were about to say something.
No problem. I'm very aligned with Nico. In our case, we never close doors here. We keep investing in all over the COVID, and we're still doing. I think COVID was a kind of tragedy for the society in general, but in terms of what we do and the companies we invest, it has been acting like a time machine, pushing most of the business like 2-3 years ahead of their time. And this is happening everywhere in the world, but probably even more in Latin America, given the gap that we have versus more mature markets. So if you look, for example, for e-commerce penetration, in China is like 30 something, in the US is 15, and here is like 6-5. So COVID is pretty much kind of leapfrogging this, and this is helping a lot. E-commerce, food delivery, health, education. But on top of that, even businesses that are not doing so well or didn't do so well in the first kind of 2-3 months of COVID, they're starting to accelerate. And if we look like several years from now, like we tend to have a very long-term orientation, they will also benefit from the COVID because they bring efficiency. So what we are seeing in our portfolio companies, especially like the e-commerce, there has been a huge increase in the usage of customer service, because now they're serving a new kind of customer, a customer that have never used e-commerce before. They don't know how to pay a bank slip. They don't know what's a CVV of credit card. And this is challenging in the short term, but it's very positive in the longer term, because the same customers are going to kind of do education online. And this is happening B2C and also B2B. And I think this is a great opportunity. I think all the investors are looking into it, not only venture capital, but growth investors. So I think it's an interesting time to be an entrepreneur, because this unlock not only capital, but several things that you could do now, and that maybe would take you another 2-3 years. So it's an advantage. A lot of companies are taking like offensive moves. The other who were taking like defensive, now they're preparing to explore the offensive as well. So I would say it's a moment there is still a lot of uncertainty. Things are changing kind of weekly, monthly, but at the same time represents a great opportunity for entrepreneurs who are innovating.
Thanks, Marcelo.
Yeah,
Hector.
Just to add, Alan, agree completely. My suggestion over the next 18 months would be, man, there's so many opportunities out there. Just the focus has to be do things better. There's so much space to improve, to exorbitantly improve, to make exorbitant value propositions and so many things that are huge out there. The consumers are ready in Latin America to take a risk on new things. They've proven it. I think that was the last component that we needed. We had the e-commerce penetration, the smartphone penetration, the credit card penetration, the capital, all of that. But the key thing that I think is driving everything right now in Latin America is that the actual consumers, they're willing to take a risk in a new product or service, because the founders have proven that they can do things better. They can provide better things. And the three guys here in this call, we're all more than willing to back them, and many others as well. So I think the table is set, and ready to go.
Okay, so let me ask you guys.
Just sorry, Alan, but just on top. And when we look at the infrastructure of Latam, if we think about banking, about telco, health, air, it's like you name it, it's all really bad. It's so sad. The levels of infrastructure that we have in the different industries. Of course, there are some better and some worse, but it's also open for disruption. And the thing is that all that old infrastructure, the owners of those old infrastructures, those old rails, they don't have the flexibility to adapt as fast as entrepreneurs can. So COVID came, old-fashioned companies, they can do very little to adapt to this new reality. And entrepreneurs, we can move so fast. We are so lean. We can adapt so quickly that it's just go there and grabbing them. It's a huge opportunity. Couldn't agree more with Hector.
And Alan, Just to add another point about the COVID, because we just talked about the bright side of COVID and the positive things, but for some time, a lot of companies struggle, even the ones that are doing very well now. They thought about kind of let go some people, cut costs. And I think that was a very important lesson for several entrepreneurs, because I think in these moments of challenge, they become much better founders. And we saw this in a lot of companies in the portfolio. After 2-3 months, they learn to do things in a much better way, thinking out of the box, trying to reduce burn. And this now it's paying off big time. And I think good entrepreneurs, they're shaped, of course, in the good moments, but often also in the bad moments when they have a lot of lessons. So COVID was definitely a great and kind of not ideal, but a big university for several entrepreneurs in our portfolio.
Marcelo, I think that's a great point. There is a lot of media attention to this concept that some great companies historically get started in downturns or in difficult times, right? And lots of articles about like, oh, this company that started when things were tough. But the reality is there are many, many great companies that already existed, but really what made them great, right? The sort of forged in fire experiences that allowed them to have future success came from those difficult times. We've certainly seen that at Endeavor in the last 6 months, and I'm sure you guys all have examples in your own portfolio.
Yeah, and Alan, the other point that I think it's worth bringing is that what this forced is for the market to refocus on not having capital as a moat, but really focusing on user experience, on bringing real value to consumers. Maybe pre-COVID, we were getting used to seeing companies just printing money and using capital as the way for them to differentiate. Especially on marketing strategies, just bringing users and not really building something that will last over time, as it's usually when you focus on product and user experience. And what we've seen is that in general worldwide, there's been a change in mood, and now we're seeing much more disciplined ways of building companies for the long run. Rather than just printing money to grow dramatically, even with low NPS, etc. So a very, very good outcome. I think it's one of these.
I agree, and I do think it has been a great kind of real life university for a generation of founders, for sure. Let me ask you guys one very practical, kind of tactical question. So we've established there's, today in Latin America, a fair amount of high quality capital out there, and there's huge opportunities. But for entrepreneurs who are listening or watching us today, who don't know you yet, right? Who haven't actually built relationships with funds like yours, how will this work in the next year, right? So if we can't travel as much or face-to-face is harder, how do you build trust over video and over Zoom? And let me ask you a question. Has anybody made an investment yet with a team they haven't met in person, right? Because I think that's a very interesting topic we're talking a lot about in Silicon Valley. And I'd be curious to know if anybody's taken that leap yet. Two?
Two investments without meeting face to face. It's different, but it's different only when you look back and take a look at it. It just felt a little bit the same way. It was missing the more personal edge. It's normally nice. You really get to know somebody when you go out and take some drinks with the founder, to talk about life, talk about your problems, whatever, and build a true relationship. And it's a little bit sad that has to wait a little bit. It's definitely going to happen, but we, and pretty sure everybody here has taken some kind of leap around that. And But I think it's the new normal. See what happens.
Well, I guess the real interesting question is not have you done it yet or not, but is focused on how do you replicate some of the things you used to do in person in terms of trust building or even due diligence in this new environment? How are you guys thinking about the tactics or the strategies for that?
Yep. So our pace of investment hasn't changed at all. I think that since COVID, we've done like 7 or 8 investments, which is our usual pace. And the how to do it, I think it remains the same. You just have conversations with the team, with the founders, and it's nice to go and have a beer, but we're used to just doing, just focusing on these long conversations that we have, establishing the relationship, understanding what type of values the founding team has, and it's for us, it's been kind of like the same. There is maybe a kind of like a hiccup when you do due diligence, and you want to go and see the office and the team, but truth said is that with Zoom or any other video conferencing system, I don't want to give any brands, but for us it's been kind of like the same. It's been fantastic.
Got it. I think it will be interesting to see how it evolves. One hypothesis I have is it might create even a little bit more opportunity for entrepreneurs in smaller markets, right? We talk about Latin America, but in reality, we're doing a lot of the investments are Brazil, Mexico, Colombia, Argentina. Endeavor's active in places like Uruguay, Peru, Ecuador, Chile. And I do believe, that Zoom and tools like this give us an opportunity to get to know founders in those other places as well. And truly, I think you can build, this is Endeavor's belief, right? But you can build billion-dollar companies from anywhere, right? If you have a big, ambitious idea, the market is global. I think we saw Notco, an Endeavor company, I think a Kazakh company, yesterday raised $85 million in their follow-on round. They're from Chile originally, right? But they're building a global business. So,
And just to add one point about this, I think Zoom creates kind of borderless opportunity for capital, but also for talent. And this is helping a lot, and it created a very interesting mode for several companies that now they can hire talent from any part of Latin America. So we have companies in Brazil, in São Paulo, and São Paulo is a very tough market to recruit coders, data science. And now they're hiring pretty much people in Northeast, in the North, in the center of Brazil, even out of Brazil, the same for Mexican companies. So as we have a more connected world in terms of capital and talent, this becomes a huge advantage for the companies that can adapt and uses differentiation. And this is good for our work because I think the questions about Latin America, it's all about talent, it's all about capital. So I think there's also this uphand of this potential consequence of COVID for us and for the entrepreneurs.
Understood. Yeah, I totally agree. Guys, we've spent a lot of time talking about how our industry, how venture capital is reacting to COVID. I want to switch gears and talk about a topic where I think venture capital is trying to be much more proactive, and that's thinking about women founders and also having more women in venture capital. I think this is a really important topic where we have a lot of work still to do. I mean, if it's not obvious, a panel of 4 men is an example of, hey, we have work to do here on how to change this industry and create more equality of opportunity. I'd like to give you each a minute or two to talk about what are you guys doing as a firm? How are you thinking about partnering or discovering the opportunity to partner with more female entrepreneurs, and then maybe even encouraging more women as angel investors or as venture capitalists? Nico, do you want to start?
Yeah, happy to. So we don't make much differentiation. Actually, we don't make any differentiation at all. To us, founders are founders regardless of their sex. So we just focus on who we're backing and not on gender. Having said that, yeah, it's true that when you look at portfolios, in general in Latam, you see that there is a much bigger concentration on male founders. But I think that's shifting. We're seeing a shift there, and hopefully will be the case, because there shouldn't be any differentiation. And in terms of our firm, we have, I think that out of 5 analysts, 3 are women. When you look at the rest of the organization, we have a principal that's female, that's women, and we also have a partner that's a female. So we are definitely, if you look at today our composition, we're kind of like total headcount, we're probably half and half. And why? Because it's to us, we don't differentiate. I think that what's needed in the industry in general, because there's a smaller pool of female founders and female VC people. What we need is to have more awareness that this is open for everybody, and having more women joining the industry, joining starting companies. I think it's just that. So hopefully next time that we do this chat, we'll bring our female partner and not me. That by the way, it's gonna be for sure much more interesting. Super smart.
Absolutely. I really appreciate that, Nico. I do think it's a really important topic. Marcelo and Hector, do you guys want to comment on things you guys are doing in this area? Or for our folks that are listening, right, male and female alike, what can other entrepreneurs or other people in the ecosystem be doing to really promote this?
Sure.
No.
You want to go first, Marcelo?
I'm not doing my job as moderator.
No worries.
No, don't worry. I think, for one, I agree with Nico. Don't make a difference. Women, I don't think they need any kind of special help. They're as talented, as capable as any man. There's absolutely no difference. There are some cultural things that we're driving. Like, for example, I had a conversation with a female entrepreneur early this week, and she was planning around her own family, her kids, and I just loved that the way she was actually from Brazil, living in Mexico, and it was quite amazing how her view of saying, you know what, I'm convinced that I can go forward with this regardless of the size of my family, the age of my kids, etc. I think an entrepreneur, and I can tell you that firsthand, is a partnership adventure. Your partner, for a woman, her husband; for a man, her wife. They're together in this. They suffer the same things. They rejoice on the successes. They cry when they need. It's something that men and women do together. So regardless if it's a woman founder or a male founder, they need the support of their partner. I think that's the main thing that will drive this. And I've seen lots of amazing women, founders in our portfolio become very successful. Just to give you a little bit of data. We did a correlation between the number of female founders to the ROI, in all of our portfolio companies, and there actually is a correlation. The higher the woman count, the higher the ROI. It was actually extremely clear, and so that's interesting. It was done on a small sample, which is our portfolio, 30-ish company size, but I'm pretty sure it should be like that everywhere else.
That the critical point, Alan, here, and this is a type of conversation that I feel very uncomfortable with, because I don't think that we should be talking about it, but unfortunately we have to be talking about it. I think that the key message, and also, on top of what Hector was saying, women can be as successful as men or even more, and it's just going out there and making it happen. So, just come to if you're a woman and you're thinking, this is a male type of industry, no way, just get on board, because there are lots of opportunities. We've been talking about that, and are not limited to a gender. It is open to everyone.
Yeah, I'm totally aligned with Nico and Hector about this. I think overall, great founders, the elements that define a great founder should not be related to gender. So we look the same way. So we look for ambition, passion, leadership, and several other things. And this is not gender related. But that said, given the diversity problems we have in our world today, when we see kind of successful women leaders and successful women kind of tech professionals already show that they have resilience, that can overcome challenge, that they can achieve goals. So overall, we see the same way. It's already put them in a kind of higher level, because we know it's harder. And I hope this will change, and we'll not have conversations, keep discussing this. Overall, the first kind of element to make this change is to understand that we have the problem, and this is not beyond deny, to acknowledge. And the second, to promote the diversity, to adjust the process, to embrace it. And it starts with small things, like, for example, an event, a panel like this, to have our women sharing their view and the challenge much more than us. And the second is to focus and do much bigger things, either on hiring, on promoting, on development, and sometimes even pushing it to make some of this change to happen faster. So we already have women in our investment team, and half of our team actually is composed by female, but we think we have to do more, and we're pushing to increase the female kind of percentage in our investment team, because it's important for the ecosystem, and it's also an important way for us to kind of make better decisions and support better our investors, our companies too.
Awesome. Well, so guys, look, I also acknowledge it's an uncomfortable topic for the four of us to talk about. We have to be part of making the change, and I think actions definitely speak louder than words. And so one of the things at Endeavor I think we're committed to is certainly bringing more female voices into these conversations in the future as well. So I think that's really important. We are almost at our hour here, and so I just wanted to take the opportunity to move to a few minutes of questions that we've gotten from our audience, because a lot of great questions have been coming in. And they're going to appear on the screen. Cool. So, you guys can see the question there. So I think this is really about sort of the role of venture capital in improving, let's say, meritocracy, democracy, equality in Latin America, right? This is obviously a big thesis of Endeavor's. We think entrepreneurs change the world, not only build companies, but through that company building and that meritocratic wealth creation and job creation can be a real force for positive change. So that's our view. But how do you guys think about that as part of your job or even part of your investment thesis?
It's a very good question. I think the way that we see it is like, as we invest in very good founders, they're very ambitious and have kind of, and somehow they're trying to disrupt huge markets that usually, especially in Latin America, are dominated by kind of one or two players, traditional players. So when we invest in a company like this, and they come with the right culture, the right values, we are at the same time helping to promote and change the landscape and inequality and other consequences. So company by company, as we invest more together with other investors, we have to create a new kind of economy in the region. Because if you look, for example, in Brazil, we have in the banking space two companies that dominated the whole kind of financial service. The same for education, the same for transportation. And it's hard. It's hard to change some of these monopolies or oligopolies. So as we create companies like Rappi, Logi, Madeira, Petlov, I think it's just the beginning of the wave. And these companies will help create another kind of wave of new talent that will become entrepreneurs, executives. So I think the best way for us to do this job is keep investing in great founders, keep supporting them to do their jobs.
I totally agree. I'm going to do these kind of rapid fire because we have a lot of great questions from the audience. This one, I'll just read it out. What's missing in order to see Latin American startups be able to take that path to IPO instead of being sold to larger companies in acquisition? I'll let you guys jump in here, but in your own portfolio, how are you thinking about exit opportunities way down the road? And, is IPO in the region or even in the US an option for your companies?
Yeah, so definitely we are seeing, the question is what's missing. I think that what was missing was having companies at the level where they could IPO. In the US, we are seeing many companies that are in the path to do that. And in the local markets, what was missing, I think it was mostly the market. And now we're seeing that the markets are definitely there. Again, interest rates extremely low. And if you look in Brazil, how many people moved from their money from the bank account where they were having amazing interest rates, because of Brazil. And now with that gone, they're opening their trading accounts, and it moved. I think it was from like 250,000 of people to a couple of million in the last quarters now trading. So there is a larger market, and we're gonna see lots of companies doing IPOs locally, but also in the US. It's gonna be fun.
I agree. I think the next 1, 2, 3, 5 years will be a really interesting ride. Maybe we have time for one more question from the audience. This is a great one, actually. So thanks again, guys, for all your questions you've provided. But it's about team, right? Looking beyond the founders, how important is the team, right, in these companies for you guys to back them? And maybe I'll even add, to this question of, what are the most important roles in the team? How does that matter based on the stage, right? Because sometimes at the early stage, you might only have the founder or founders, but when you're looking at a series A or B, you do expect to see more of the team filled out. Hector, how do you think about this one in terms of the team beyond the founders?
Critical. It's extremely important. It's probably one of the most important things that and the founder has to understand that not only does he have to value that team, he has to value the culture, he has to create all the incentives around it. He has to align everybody to long-term equity value creation. He has to align them on a meritocratic basis, and he doesn't have to be afraid to hire the best there can be. A small startup, a seed stage startup, doesn't mean that you need a less talented person at the helm in a key position. It's exactly the opposite, I'd say. It's don't shy away from going after the best of the best of the best, even if you don't know them. That would be my suggestion. I think the startups in Latin America have proven that entering in the early stages is extremely valuable personally and financially for the people that take those chances.
Awesome.
And take
well,
those
guys, with
roles.
that, we're very close to the end. So I just wanted to conclude on a couple notes. First of all, I wanted to thank the three of you for being a part of this and for giving an hour to Endeavor and to the entrepreneurial ecosystem to do this. I want to thank our whole audience, everyone, for joining us. Keep building what you're building. Hopefully, we'll be there to help. And then Endeavor's obviously always trying to create more resources around this. So in Brazil, we have a new capital raising roadmap that you can go check out. There's more resources, obviously, about entrepreneurship at the the Endeavor campus. And I guess I'll ask the three of you just in 10 seconds, if there's a great entrepreneur out there who doesn't know you, what's the best way to get in touch with you, Marcelo?
No, good question. Especially, I think, through networks like Endeavor, through our portfolio, through a lot of people in the ground in Brazil, Mexico, Colombia, they are connected to us. So I think through the network usually is the best way. And the other way is we also reach out to a lot of founders that we connect based on investment thesis. So, and the other one is just kind of to get our contact in the website and don't be shy. Just send out a message and reach out to us.
Okay.
I can go next. nik@kasek.com. Just shoot me an email. Easiest way to connect with us.
I think you're going to get a few emails in the next few minutes, Nico.
WhatsApp, email, open 24/7.
Hector?
I don't have a chart to write my email here on the back, but it's hector@mountainnazca.com. Send an email, just call through LinkedIn. It's great. Telephone. Just reach out. Don't
Awesome.
be shy like Marcelo
Well, thanks
said.
again to all three of you. Thanks to Endeavor for organizing. And, like we say, entrepreneurs, all of you out there, you're the ones changing the world. Hopefully we can be here to help. So thanks again for your time and have a wonderful day.
Thanks. Thanks,
Thanks a lot.
Endeavor.
Thank you to all of you.